Welcome back to another episode of the Valley of the Suns podcast. This is another roundtable edition. Today I'm joined by Adam Maynes and Andrew Clark. I'm Kory Miller. And today we're going to be talking about the Lakers' free fall in the NBA standings and if they're going to be able to pass the Suns in lottery odds. And we're going to have kind of a trade deadline extravaganza as we approach the last few days that deals can be made. Adam, Andrew, how are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. How about yourself?
Good.
I'm speaking for both of us, it seems.
You are.
Adam, what's up with the Lakers right now?
They suck. That's what's up. And what sucks to me is that they suck more than the Suns. As I was mentioning you guys off air, this is the first season of my life as a Suns fan. And I'm an old man, 33. What the hell happened? But this is the first season of my life where I've actually rooted for the team to lose. If you guys read my blogs out there, you'll see that it's painful for me to watch them lose. It's painful for me to support losing on any level. I truly do every game root for a victory, but at the same time when it's over, it doesn't quite kind of sting as well as it might in a different season. But regardless, the Suns need more talent, and they've got a great opportunity if they finish the first pick to get Markelle Fultz, who could be a generational point guard. They've got a great opportunity to get Ball. What's his first name? Paul. Lonzo. Thank you. First chance to get Lonzo Ball. If they get the second pick, who could be a generational point guard. Certainly comparisons to Jason Kidd would be fantastic if they could bring that kind of talent here to the Suns for the next 10, 12 years. And then you've got Josh Jackson, number 3 overall. So I mean, you've got this great talent that the Suns would be just gushing to have. But if they just win one too many games, they could miss out on 1, 2, or all 3. And you never know if the Suns, say, finished with the third worst record in the NBA, that somebody behind them jumps them, and boom, now they're drafting number 4.
That's true. In fact, I think it was in 2013. It's when they drafted Len. They had the 4th best odds, and they finished with the 5th pick.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I know Andrew has been writing a series of posts kind of previewing some of the prospects in the top 5 for the drafts this season. Andrew, out of all those, who should the Suns be targeting?
Depends on where they pick, right? I mean, I think everybody would love to have Fultz. He's just an incredible talent, and it's really tough to have to really nitpick to try to put holes into his game. Personally, as far as a fit, I really like Josh Jackson. If I was Ryan McDonough, primarily just because the Suns are so bad defensively, and Jackson's just such an outstanding player on that end of the ball.
Yep.
Well, small forward, just out of curiosity, do you think he would jump in immediately as the starter as a rookie? Would he pass up T.J. Warren, presuming that P.J. Tucker is no longer around?
I think if you drafted Josh Jackson, you would almost have to trade T.J. Warren to open the spot, whether Josh deserved it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, at that point, you're essentially saying you're valuing defense over offense. And so I think it'd be a tough case to keep both of them because you're probably going to stunt both their growths if they're on the same team.
I think it would be, but I kind of agree with Jackson is really intriguing. I personally want the Suns to get Ball any way that they can. That would be my dream scenario out of this draft. But when I think about them taking Jackson, I kind of really like the idea of keeping TJ and making him your 6th man for the next, 5 to 10 years. But kind of like that 6th starter, kind of what they tried to do with Knight this season, but failed epically. I kind of think TJ could be successful in that role because he's kind of instant offense and he fits that 6th man, that 6th starter role. What do you guys think about that? Am I crazy?
Andrew, take it.
You're not crazy at all. Adam used to compare TJ's game a little bit to Cedric Ceballos.
I still do.
That was,
yeah,
I think that was Cedric's role the whole time, right? A premier 6th man who could really score off the bench.
Yeah, so Ceballos is rookie, 2nd year, so it's 90, 91, and 192. He came off the bench almost exclusively. And then our finals year, he came off the bench 3/4 of the time. Or excuse me, he started 3/4 of the time. That was kind of the first year where he started to become a regular starter. And then his final year here, he was injured a lot. I believe, if I recall, he was still recovering from the ankle injury that he suffered in the conference finals. So I think the final 53 games of the season that he played, he started 43. So, I mean, for the most part, yeah, he was a bench player. I still see the fantastic similarities between the two. I mean, they were both kind of 4-minute guys. Obviously, T.J. Warren still is, and that's fantastic. And kind of the beauty, in my opinion, about T.J. Warren coming off the bench versus Brandon Knight is more in size. He probably could at 6'8", if necessary. If we wanted to play a tall lineup, he probably could guard some of the taller shooting guards in the league for stints. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to put him there. He's, of course, a perfect fit for small forward. But at 6'8", he could also probably guard some of the smaller stretch fours and be able to at least be serviceable in that sense. So defensively, I mean, we certainly don't look at it from that perspective. But if he can at least kind of take on those bigger players in those certain matchups, that scoring is just going to be instrumental. And the problem with Knight, I think, is just strictly his size. He just gets run over by bigger players. And while he is offensively
I think there's more
skilled, I think just because of the position he plays and the size that he is, it does not really fit to a six-man role, because he's got to be counted on more to be a scorer. And when he can't stop anybody defensively, and when they put bigger players on him, he really does get muted.
I personally think there's a lot more problems with Knight, but we'll leave that for another episode. Adam, going back to the original topic and the Lakers and their free fall, how do you see the rest of the season shaping up in terms of kind of lottery odds positioning? The Suns are second right now. Behind.
We're still second, yeah. We're
Brooklyn.
half a game behind. What would be the correct word? Behind the Lakers. They're 19 and 39. We're 18 and 39.
Yes.
So
and then the Magic have also been tanking in the East, but they have, I think, 3 more wins than the Suns do, 2 more wins.
Yeah,
than
they're
the Lakers
21
do
and
right
37. So yeah, they're about 2 games ahead of us. And again, I'm trying to remember what's the right proper terminology, but regardless, nobody's going to catch up the Nets. The Nets are 9 and 47. They have 47 losses. Nobody else in the league has even 40. Suns and Lakers are tied at 39. They're definitely the closest. And then, as you said, the Magic are tanking themselves. And really, that's kind of the 4. The 76ers are 21 and 35, so they're right there in discussions.
They've been winning, though.
They are winning, but Joel Embiid is out. It sounds like they're not going to even play Ben Simmons all season. They're going to treat him like a glass doll.
They should.
Or glass whatever. So they might... they might stand a chance to catch a team like the Suns if the Suns do win too many games. But now here's something interesting. And this is something that I've mentioned. I've never made like a lead topic in any of my posts, but something I have mentioned and say my opinions following post-game wrap-ups. Earl Watson is the only head coach in franchise history that, as of yet, has not had a 3-game winning streak. The longest winning streak that he has had is 2 games. Suns beat the Lakers. Now, the Suns are, if somebody can remind me, I believe they're 11 and 7 against the East. Our first 2 games post All-Star break, which, obviously every team is able to rest, but certainly the Suns are going to be able to rest and kind of regroup. So coming out of the All-Star break, the Suns play the Chicago Bulls and the Milwaukee Bucks. We have beaten both teams, and now the Bucks are without their star player, not named Giannis Antetokounmpo. What's his name?
Jabari Parker.
Jabari Parker. Yeah. There we go.
Tough break, man. I feel bad for that kid.
Yep. So the Suns come out of the break playing the Chicago Bulls and Milwaukee Bucks. Suns beat both teams. The Bucks now no longer have Jabari Parker. So we might have a chance to see this team's first 3-game winning streak since very early in the 2015-2016 season, very late in the tenure of Jeff Hornacek. So, and I'm saying this, because, Earl Watson has finally, matched the ranks of every Suns head coach ever in having a 3-game win streak. But the Lakers are going to continue to lose. Suns are probably going to get passed up by the Lakers. We're now going to be bumped into the 3rd spot, which hypothetically with Atlanta's Josh Jackson. But as you mentioned earlier, Kory, when we had the 4th pick and all of a sudden we get bumped and now we draft an Alex Len at 5th, I don't know. Andrew, have you done a post yet on who would be the 4th overall pick? Who would that be?
I put it in there as Dennis Smith. I think that's probably the most likely, although if it's the Suns picking, they're probably not going to go that route. But you never know.
Yeah. Well, to kind of, before we switch gears off of this topic, let's get a prediction from each of you as to what you think the top 3 in lottery odds will be at the end of the season. Let's start with you, Adam.
You're talking about the teams?
Yeah. Where do you think?
Well,
obviously, Brooklyn will be first, but where do you think the Suns and Lakers and Magic will end up?
Unfortunately, I'm going to say that the Suns get bumped to 3rd. kind of stop right there and just say, at least when it comes to standings, it'll be Brooklyn 1, LA 2, Suns 3, Orlando 4. That lessens our odds of jumping, which, truthfully, I mean, we finished third. It doesn't mean that we're automatically stuck at 3 or go to 4. We could still win and bump up to number 1 or 2. But that being said, it just lessens our odds. But I think we'll probably end up 3. The Suns, we'll discuss here in a moment, possible trade scenarios. The Suns could still make a trade that hurts the team, which could be strategic. They could end up trading, say, PJ Tucker for a second-round pick just to get a second-round pick. And boom, now that this team loses kind of its heart and soul, at least its energy, especially defensively, and it bumps them back a little bit. But I just think the Lakers are in such abject tank mode. They're so desperate to keep that pick because they do not have it next year no matter what if they keep it this year. So they might as well just get it now, make a run at Fultz or Ball. Although, I mean, they've got D'Angelo Russell, so maybe they would go Jackson. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I'll say Brooklyn 1, LA 2, Suns 3, Orlando 4.
Great. Andrew?
I'm a big fan of the draft conspiracy theories, so my guess is Philadelphia is going to come out with the number 1 overall pick. I'll bet Phoenix ends up number 2, then Boston because they can never get a fair shake in the draft. And then I think, Philadelphia will end up with the 4th pick that would have been the Lakers. And, Philly's going to be looking like they were a bunch of geniuses.
Yeah, and in terms of what the standings are going to be at the end of the year, would you have Brooklyn, Phoenix, Lakers then?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Well, switching gears a bit, this is Saturday, February 18th. We are less than 1 week away from the NBA trading deadline. That deadline is going to hit us next Thursday, the 23rd. And all has been pretty quiet so far. There have been a few deals, nothing major, but there's a lot of rumors circulating. Adam, can you kind of bring us up to date on the latest news involving Suns pieces and where they might possibly be going?
Yeah, with the Cleveland Cavaliers seemingly fall apart, I've been talking to my sources say that LeBron is here for just a second-round pick. I mean, it's all about the cap, but no, I would say at the moment, a few weeks ago, I did do a post where I said, what are the chances that the Suns don't make a move? And I went through the list of maybe they want to keep Tyson because of his leadership. Maybe they want to keep PJ Tucker, A, because of leadership, B, because he's a free agent, so nobody's going to want to offer first-round picks. They just say, we'll stick with him and maybe resign him. Maybe they don't move Brandon Knight because they can't get anything for him, and so on and so forth. So I think there's still a chance that happens. I would still put odds in favor of at least something happening. But I think if I were to rank, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on this too, if I were to rank the players today that are most likely to move, that list and that order has changed from, say, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I would think that PJ Tucker is most likely to move, to be traded, just because I do think an Eastern Conference team, maybe a Cleveland can find a way. Maybe Miami wants to now make a little bit stronger push. I don't know what kind of first round picks they can trade because the trade rules, you're not able to trade 2 years in a row.
They've already given us 2.
3-team deals can happen and just get him to a team that's on the cusp of the playoffs. So I still think that PJ Tucker is probably most likely to move. From there, I think there's a drop off. Unless McDonough can work some magic, which he has proven that he can do, I think Knight is stuck here. So I'd actually put him towards the bottom of the list of players most likely to be traded. And I'd still say that maybe Tyson is second, but I kind of have this sinking feeling that if anything happens, it'll be small. It'll be PJ. It'll be the Suns don't want to trade their first-round pick this year, which, we've all discussed this. I don't want them to, almost for anybody.
Well, I think the only way they would trade that pick is if they're getting a superstar like Cousins back. And now that seems very highly unlikely, that pick's not going anywhere, I don't think.
But to be honest, I think I said that then, even though I said make the trade, I'm just so hesitant on it because it's so rare that a franchise has a shot at the number 1 overall pick and has a decent shot at it. And there's no reason to believe that in 2, 3, 4, 5 years that Markelle Fultz or Lonzo Ball are equal to or better, at least positionally, than DeMarcus Cousins. So while I don't know, I'm torn on that. My overwhelming point, though, is that I just have this funny feeling not very much is going to happen. I hope I'm wrong. I think Tucker is probably gone, but I think that's probably about it. What do you guys think?
I think PJ is probably the most likely to be dealt. I disagree, and I think Knight's still. Well, I'll put it this way: I think the Suns want to get rid of Knight, and I think that was obvious when they sat Bledsoe for a rest day and basically auditioned Knight. Now
which ended up backfiring.
That went about as poorly as you could hope for, and just is further proof that Knight is not going to be a high commodity. But still, at this point, if I'm in the camp of if you can get anything for Knight, you just got to get him off the team, and it's nothing against him personally, but it's going to be addition by subtraction, and I truly believe that he doesn't make anyone else better, and he's not going to help the team now or in the long run. My concern with trading PJ is that because he's an expiring contract, he's really a rent-a player for wherever he goes. And so, I mean, McDonough's done it before where he's pulled I didn't think they were going to get a first-round pick for Markeith, but they somehow did. I really don't see them getting a lot for PJ because you're basically only renting him out to a team for about a couple months in the playoffs. Beyond that, I don't really see Tyson going anywhere. I think if they were going to move him, they would have moved him last summer, and he made it clear that he wants to stay here, and I think he's had a good enough season that he can help this team moving forward, both on the court and off the court. I think his leadership is still invaluable, so I really hope that they don't move him.
I don't want him, just personally, I don't want him to trade him. But
yeah, other than that, I think PJ and Knight are the ones that you really are going to want to watch this week. There's going to be a lot of rumors involving both of them. If the Suns get in on talks with a superstar, then I think it opens up to Bender, Chris, maybe the first-round pick are involved. At this point, I don't think Bledsoe's going anywhere. Booker's obviously off limits. So, I think the names you're going to be looking at this week, if I had to bet what's actually going to happen, I would say that the odds are PJ and or Knight get moved, but you're probably not getting a lot in return. Andrew, what kind of value do you think you could get for those guys right now?
Well, I think the value is not very high. I wrote earlier in the week about how Stan Van Gundy is trying to get rid of Reggie Jackson, and the rumor is they're going to ship him to Orlando for DJ Augustine and a bag of chips, And I think Reggie is as bad as Knight in a lot of areas, but that should give you a sense of the value there. So, Brandon's struggling, but he's worth more than what the trade market's going to offer for him.
Yeah.
And maybe the Toronto Raptors, who are certainly in win now mode, maybe they get desperate and fork over a first rounder for PJ just because this is their one shot at it.
Yeah.
But that makes no salary cap sense or no long-term sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, I think it's what you mentioned. If they're in win now mode, especially with Cleveland having some issues and Love being out right now, I mean, this is kind of the opportunity for Toronto to take that step forward in the East and try and make the finals. So that's not so far-fetched.
It's not. So there's a desperation there. I'll tell you, I think the person that's most likely to get traded right now is Alex Len, and that has more to do with money than anything else. Mm-hmm. He's just a restricted free agent. We saw what Timothy Mozgov got from the Lakers. Yeah. So he's likely to get overpaid. He is a talented player. If he was starting, he would be averaging a double-double. And there are people that will always need 7-footers who can play defense and are mobile.
Well, that discussion has been on local sports talk radio a lot the past couple of weeks of what do you do with Alex Len if you're keeping Tyson Chandler? What are you doing with Tyson Chandler if you're keeping Alex Len? I just think you invested a 5th overall pick in him. Tyson Chandler is at least a decade older. I don't know why the Suns. You'd have to be getting some sort of. I guess I just disagree with that. I don't think the Suns trade Len unless he's part of a bigger package, just because I don't think there's going to be any sort of return, being that he is a restricted free agent, that would make moving him worthwhile. You might as well fork over that money and deal with trying to trade Tyson Chandler later.
Well,
right? I mean,
I think there's still some value for Len.
I think there's a lot of value for Len. He's only like 24 years old.
I have to admit this up front. I'm not a big Len fan, and I was a couple of years ago, but this is his 4th year in the league, I believe, and I think he is what he is right now. And I don't know if he'll be able to be a efficient starter in this league. I really honestly think he's kind of a career backup. Now, if he's starting, is he going to average a double-double? Probably. But if you look at some of his numbers, the efficiency is really bad. He's near the very bottom of the league in plus-minus, and I know part of that is because the Suns are such a bad team, but he's really down there. He doesn't shoot a very high percentage for a big guy. he has good games now and again, but I think he also has equally bad games, and he's very inconsistent. And I know he's still young, but I've kind of soured on his potential a little bit because I don't know if we're going to see much more than what we get from him now. And in terms of value, because he's restricted, I think he still holds a lot more value because a team that gets him knows that they may have to pay him, but they're going to keep him. I'm split on trading him because I think Tyson has one more good year left in the tank, but Tyson's about to retire. He's not going to be around 3 years from now. He's got 1 or 2 seasons left, and then he's going to be done. And he's been so productive, and again, his leadership skills, I think, are so vital to the rest of the young team that I want to keep him. But if you keep him, Len's not playing well enough to really push Tyson to the bench. So if you keep both of them, you're going to have the same dynamic next year with Tyson starting and Len coming off the bench. And I don't know if that helps anyone long term.
I do want to defend Len a little bit more. He's only had 11 games as a starter this season, and he is 23 and 247 days, so he is almost 24 years old. But in 11 starts this year, he is averaging 10.1 points, 9.4 boards, and if I recall, it was over. It's almost 2 blocks. It's like 1.9 blocks a game, which is better than Tyson in terms of block defense. I just think he gets a bad rap because his stats are low because he is backing up Tyson. Tyson does deserve to get 23, 28 minutes. I personally wish Tyson was playing 34, and he was that good, especially in rebounding. But Len is a much better offensive player. He is starting to learn some post moves. He is starting to learn the little baby hook. He's just so young. He fits into that rebuilding mode. Yes, he's going to make a lot of money, and he probably will be overpaid just to keep him. But at the same time, you're going to be able to get Tyson Chandler's salary off the books at some point, whether it's in 2 years because they can't trade him or if it's right away if they can trade him. Len to me is still a cornerstone center. If this is a fast, high-paced offense, which we kind of all presume it will be, especially with Bledsoe as point guard, you don't need kind of a drudging center who isn't going to score. I mean, you need a guy that's fast and agile and athletic like Len, who can put the ball in the hoop, who on a fast break can be down there under the basket quickly and can get you these dump-off points very easily. Not just the lob passes like Chandler, but Len can get down there, get set, get the ball to him, and within 3 seconds has the ball in the hoop. That's something that Chandler just isn't doing anymore.
Well,
so I just think there's too much value to trade him unless he is part of a bigger package.
My criticism of Len is he's athletically very gifted. And he's done a little bit better as of late. He's bringing some of his numbers up, but he's still only shooting 50% from the field. And for a big
that's
guy,
low, I admit, but he's also shooting.
And if you look at if you go back, maybe comparing last season is not fair, but he started 46 games last season and he only shot 42% last season.
Yes.
And if you compare him with Tyson hasn't shot. I'm going back and looking at the stats. Tyson hasn't shot under 56% since 2004, since he was 22.
Mm-hmm.
So Len's talented. He's defensively he's a good center, but offensively he's really inconsistent and really inefficient, and that's where I think the problem is that it's really hard to start a 5, especially kind of a more athletic one like Len, when he's only shooting 50%.
Is there an argument that can be made that this should actually be his rookie season had he played 4 years in college? I mean, he's still young. He was learning the game on the fly. He suffered 2 significant injuries his first 2 years, especially his rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's still a learning curve to it. It sucks that players now come in so early in their growth, I suppose, because they're not going to college for 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have a guy like Len that comes in and gets hurt that first year and only plays 42 games, things just kind of slow up, but their rookie contracts still end after 4 seasons. So
you can definitely make that argument. I think you can make that argument for a lot of players with that come out after being one and done in college.
It kind of sucks that we're at this point where Len is still so early in his development is going to have to get paid. But that's just how the system works.
Right, and I think that's probably why I'm so negative on him, is because we all have an idea how much money he's going to get, and I mean, I don't dislike him. I don't want him to be traded. I don't want to give him $20 million a year because I think he's still an incredibly unknown commodity. And giving a big contract like that to someone who may or may not pan out, that can make or break a rebuild. And that's what I'm concerned about.
I would like to make a brief correction. I do want to hear what Andrew's saying. This would actually be a sophomore season. I was incorrect. I forgot that he played 2 years at Maryland, not one. But go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think exactly what Kory just said is the way I look at it. You're not going to pay $20 million for somebody that's not an elite talent, or at least you shouldn't pay $20 million for that. Mm-hmm. So, if there's no trade market at all for Alex Len, then sure, you keep him. But my suspicion is for the same points that you're making, Adam, somebody's going to be tempted enough to reach out and pay exactly what Ryan's looking for, and he's going to take it and run. So I think that's what makes him the most likely trade candidate.
All right, so let's just say, for the sake of argument, that he gets traded within the next couple of days. Tyson Chandler maybe has one good year left. Who's our center of the future? Is it Alan Williams? I mean, I love the guy, but I've never thought of him as being our center of the future.
I don't think he's the center of the future, but I do really like maybe letting him be the primary backup next season, see how that works out. If you trade Len, you definitely have to address the position either through the draft, or you have to go out and trade for someone or sign someone in the offseason who's maybe a little bit younger, kind of like a Mason Plumlee type. I know he just got dealt, so you wouldn't go for him specifically, but you'd look for that type of player that could kind of slide in and play a few seasons, and then in the future you'd have to address that position from the draft, I think.
I just think that puts a really big hole. We're filling one hole with a point guard, although that's not even necessarily a hole, but we're kind of filling one piece, and then we're at the same time getting rid of another. Now, granted, maybe if we get a first-round pick with Len and we're able to package, but there are no big men in this draft. I mean, so maybe we can wait another year, but what happens if we get a little bit better? So, I mean, let's just say that the Suns win 40 games next year. I mean, just kind of spitballing, even if it's like 30, 35. We're now picking later, lower in the draft, and we might miss out on a big that's available early in the draft next year. So, but just personally, I just think it's a little bit too much of a risk. I say pay Len. Salary cap, I mean, has spiked, and it's going to continue to spike. So, I mean, it does lessen the blow a little bit. And then at the moment, we still have Bledsoe under reasonable money. Booker is still on a rookie contract for another 2 more years. Warren for another year. If you're able to get rid of Knight and you don't replace him with a big contract, then that. So I still just think there's too many positive variables.
Well, so to kind of
warrants keeping him around.
Well, so if we're looking at how much we're willing to pay Len, can I get numbers from both of you on what do you think would be fair?
Oh gosh.
I mean, what are you guys willing to pay him? So not what will he actually end up with, but if you were the Suns, what would be your highest offer? Because, I mean, I still want to keep him, but I want to keep him more kind of in that 14 to 16 range because I think that for what he's done so far, I think that's fair.
I don't know what numbers exactly will be. My mind has still not wrapped around what this new salary cap structure is going to mean in terms of low, mid, and high contracts. I have no idea off the top of my head what a max contract will be, for instance. Mm-hmm. I would say in terms of percentage of a max contract, I would shoot for 70 to 80% of a max contract. So if a max contract were 10 million, it's obviously much, much more. I would say 7 to 8 million. So if it's 20, I would say probably 14 to 16 million.
The max deals right now, the max deals right now are based off of a percentage of the salary cap. And that percentage goes up as you're in the league later. I don't know what those numbers are off the top of my head. I think if you're looking at 75% of what Len's max would be, I think his max would be around 20. So that means
then I would probably
looking
between
15
and
to
16. If it's above that, then we're in trouble. But I don't even think that a team with equal cap space to the Suns would want to pay Len a max. I mean, he's not a max player. I don't think the market will dictate that. So I still think he's going to be lower than a max. It'd be ideal if maybe he was paid 60% of a max contract. And so if it's 20, he's paid about $12 million. I think that's probably low, especially based on, I just mentioned earlier, the Lakers. Andrew mentioned his name.
Timothy Mozgov.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It'd be unfortunate if you were making Timothy Mozgov money. Because also remember this. Last year, teams had to throw that money out just to meet the salary cap floor. Mm-hmm. So I do think that also distorted what contracts will be once the salary cap is stabilized.
It could be.
So Len is at least still so young that he can grow. He's so athletic that he can still become a very solid center in this league. And with Tyson Chandler a year to 2 years away from retiring, let alone the potential of him being traded, I just think you got to keep him around.
Yep. Well, so to finish off this discussion, let me go back to each of you and ask you one more question. That's the deadline's in 5 days. Give me your prediction on one player to be traded and a possible destination. Kind of, if you had to put money on it, who do you think is not a member of the Suns this time next week?
Well, I think if I'm playing with house money, then it's PJ Tucker ends up in Toronto, or Los Angeles, but probably in Toronto. And I think a wild card there is, like I said, I think Alex Len's probably getting dealt, and it's probably going to look somebody like Indiana or Brooklyn.
Yep.
Out of curiosity, when you say Tucker to LA, are you saying Clippers or Lakers? I'm assuming Clippers.
The Clippers.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Clippers.
Yeah. I think playing with house money, my money's on Tucker. I'm hoping that they don't trade Len. I'll tell you what. You guys know that I've been on the Jahlil Okafor bandwagon. If Okafor, since Okafor is still apparently available, I would, and they have any interest in him, that's at the moment where I would trade Len. I would take one or the other. I think my preference would probably still be Len, but I've always been an Okafor fan because of his offense. I do think you can build a defense when you've got a good system in place that could be able to minimize his deficiencies. But I would take Len over Okafor, but if we're getting off Okafor, then trade Len. Other than that, as I said earlier, I think it's Tucker, and I hope that McDonough pulls some magic out of a hat and trades tonight, but I'm just not too hopeful. Too confident.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I think PJ is the most likely to go at this point. I think Toronto, the Clippers, I think Cleveland's a possibility because given the slide that they've had over the past month and a half with Love out, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make another move for kind of a veteran wing and a defender to go into the playoffs to just kind of shore everything up. I kind of don't think Len will be dealt. It wouldn't surprise me, but I think the money is still higher that Knight will be gone. I just don't think they're going to get anything for him. But I kind of think that the Suns have realized that he kind of needs to go. And a possibility is if you trade Knight, that frees up, I think, like $14 million a year. So maybe the Suns kind of trade Knight for almost nothing, and they're able to go out and give Len 16 to 20 in the offseason, and you don't have that much of a difference overall. So if I had to put money on it, I think PJ's probably gone, Knight, and then I think Len's probably third most likely. But I honestly, after the trading deadline a few seasons ago when Dragic was traded and IT was traded, there would be nothing that would shock me from McDonough. So we'll definitely see what happens, and I know we'll be covering it more and talking more about it on the site between now and then. Adam, you want to kind of plug the site and give us kind of a lowdown on what's been up there recently?
Yeah, sure. So we've been doing a lot of discussion about the trade deadline. We've got a bunch of posts up there about that. I actually just did a top 10 best trades in Phoenix Suns history. I'd love everybody to check out. There's been a lot of discussion about Suns rookie Derek Jones Jr. in the slam dunk contest, which is obviously tonight, February 18th. So maybe by the time you guys hear this, you'll know what happened. Of course, Andrew just posted a Suns trade target should be Andre Drummond, which we probably should have talked about. We're going to talk about that the next day or so. So we've got a lot of cool things that we're discussing, mostly trade centered, but we certainly still do our pre and post game stuff, and then a bunch of opinion pieces. We've got 3 new writers that have just joined us that I'm really psyched to have along. So we're now up to a staff of 9, if you can believe it, which is fantastic. Because Kory, I know that the past few months it had just been me and you for the longest time. We got Andrew, and it's just of course we always had Robert Neal, but it's just things just are growing. I'm just really excited about everything that's going on here. So just to plug the site in general, we have valleyofthesuns.com. We have on Twitter @valleyofthesuns. On Facebook, we have facebook.com/Phoenix Suns blog. And then, of course, we have our email, votsuns@gmail.com. So we always would love to hear from you guys. Send us an email, ask us a question, and we'd be happy to answer on one of these blogs. Maybe very soon we should do an all email question and answer blog. That'd be kind of fun to be able to pull that off.
That would be fun, yeah. So, all right, well, Andrew, Adam, thanks guys for coming on again. I know we'll be talking more as we get closer to the deadline and as we get through All-Star Weekend. And so for everyone listening, thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.